This is the Straight Up Breakdown Podcast with Greg Smith and Jay Foreman. Tell it to me straight up.
Hello. Welcome into the Straight Up Breakdown Podcast, proudly part of the Hale Varsity Network. I am Greg Smith, your newly running virtual 5K friend. Why did I do that?
Well, wow. This is Jay Foreman, your never running 5K co-host, and the Hennessy and water newly drinking extraordinaire.
I have not had Hennessy in I don't know how long, and you keep talking about it. It's going to make me just get like a little itty-bitty bottle and just try it to see. I don't even remember what it tastes like.
And the reason why I talked to my uncle, and I remember all my, my uncles and my, I guess, play uncles, and, when I was a little kid, because Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. Yeah. And so I remember being down there watching the games. Obviously Detroit was playing, and everybody be coming over to my grandma's house when out in D.C., and they would have, little Hennessy and apple juice, Hennessy and, Sprite back then, or 7-Up, and a little Hennessy and water. That was the drink. So that's always kind of been ingrained in my mind. So once Thanksgiving comes around, that's when the Hennessy starts to, be poured at the house. So, and also before we get into it, another year, we did our turkey drive yesterday.
Yeah.
It was hard to get up after, angrily drinking away your sorrows after Nebraska got the brakes beat off them.
Yeah.
We gave away 200 turkeys. We worked with the Malone Center in Lincoln, so it was really good deal. We worked with my barber, KB Corbina. He has a foundation, so it really was a good deal. Malone Center does a lot of good things in Lincoln.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah.
Now.
You about to ask about this 5K?
I asked you about the 5K. I'm looking at you sideways like, what's wrong with you?
Okay. So I had actually, and this has happened now, I've done 2 5Ks, both of them turkey trots. The one 2 years ago we actually did in person because you could do that then. It feels like another world. This one was done virtually. I actually forgot that we were doing this one. So I work out basically every day, but I had not actually started prepping my body for this. Mm-hmm. And so I basically went into this cold, and actually I did very well. I think I shaved, 12 minutes off of my time from last time. I was feeling good about myself, but the actual 5K yesterday is not the reason why I feel like crap today. It is because I decided in my infinite wisdom that, hey, I felt good yesterday. I can get up today and do another run. So I got up this morning and I did because I do the runs. We always talk about Peloton. I did the run through the Peloton app. And it was a 20-minute just kind of fun run. And then if that wasn't enough, I was going to do a 20-minute HIIT run, intermediate level, not even beginner. And I'm like, okay. We got to that probably the 15-minute mark of that first one, and I was hating life. I feel like I just played an NFL game. My left foot hurt, my knee hurt. At one point, my calf locked up on the right leg. It was. Now I made it through. Right. I got through that. I always try to think when those tough workouts happen. Not every workout has to feel like Disneyland. So sometimes you just got to get through it and see where you go. You feel good about it afterwards. You made it through. But that wasn't a great decision. No, my decision making. You've
officially reached. You doing too damn much level.
I'm usually the one saying that to people.
You do it way too much. It's a lot. If you told me that you did this after the Lakers won the championship, I could see it. Okay, you just won your championship yesterday with the 5K, and then want to double down on it. You gotta do. We talked about dealing with success, right?
We did talk about that.
You just pulled a Nebraska with your own body. Now you know what's going to happen 2 days from now. You're going to be like, dang.
Yeah, I'm setting myself up for a real bad week because then we're going to got, all the food at the end of the week. It's going to be – I got to sit down and kind of redo my plan because I do kind of sit down every week and think about how we're going to work this out. And I try to make it to where it makes sense. I didn't follow my own advice. We're going to see how this goes. Y'all check in with me later in the week to see how I'm feeling.
You just like the staff. There's no time like Nebraska staff, that is. There's no time like the present to – reevaluate, reset, and redo your goals. Look, your big day. Theirs is on Friday. Ours is on Thursday, right? Because so me, I'm just like, hey, if I get there, I'm cool. I'm done until Monday. Okay. So if I put on 5-10 pounds, that means I had a good Thanksgiving. if I stay right at it, then I actually did something good. You, on the other hand, since you out here, working out and stuff, you gotta redo your game plan, man.
I do. So then, okay. So now I have a question for you, following off of this. We're just gonna go off of the script from what I wanted to do because I want to just talk about Thanksgiving and something fun before we have to dive into this football. So, do you, during the week leading up to Thanksgiving, are you a person that tries to watch what you eat leading up to that? Or are you like, hey, forget it, it's all week, we just gonna let this thing go?
I'm keeping it regular, man. Ain't nothing changed. You going into the championship game. I'm not changing the way I practice. I'm preparing for this. You understand?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not coming in there to, trying to cut weight. We already done made weight. I feel like once the week started, we already did the weigh-in. If we
so it's over. It's in the body.
So you know how the boxers be like, they come in, if they have to fight at 150, they weigh in at 149, and then they talk about 2 days later when the fight comes.
Yeah, they balloon back up.
They ballooned up to 170. Yep. That's me right there.
Okay.
So I'm not changing my routine at all. Once Thursday hits, it's on.
So I think I'm tentatively. We're gonna let it go, and we just not even think about it on Thursday. Though I do think that we're gonna try to get up Thursday, do some sort of run, just to kind of get a little baseline in there, because we have been doing that for the last couple of years, and I feel a little bit better at the end of Thursday. Yeah. But we're gonna see. Maybe you do a little salmon early in the week. You try to
I feel you.
Mix in something green. Insert something here, maybe some salad.
Make sure that system is nice and clean.
Yeah, make sure it's clean. But see, sometimes though, you think that ends up leading to you feeling worse on Thursday. Because then now you didn't put. I'm trying to think. I think we try. Now you ham or turkey on Thanksgiving or both?
I'm both.
See, I'm not a turkey guy, so it's like ham is where it's at for me. Like it's always ham.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of the baked macaroni. So we gotta have the baked macaroni and cheese. I think my wife is making some green beans, maybe some mashed potatoes.
Right.
I'm a dessert guy, so we gotta have some pecan pie. She makes this thing layered dessert. I'm making everybody hungry. When you listen to this,
I'm dreaming about it right now.
And then we got to get the drinks. We got to.
Oh yeah.
That's the last piece of this right now.
I'm food and drink. That's it. I don't even want no dessert.
Really?
I want to pound some food. You can just sit back and chill. Put on TV, and let's start drinking. As long as drink till you throw up. Not just playing.
No, see, the thing is, it's funny though, because you said the thing about like your family, you had the Hennessy and apple juice or water, or whatever, 7-Up, Sprite during your family. My family was not a big drinking family during holidays. Like I didn't see that until after I got married and went down to Mississippi with my wife to see her family, and it's just like bottles lined up on the table. Like we didn't. That was not something that was really
ours was a little different. All the women would be upstairs and they would, be up there talking about, who was at the Elks Club and all this stuff. You know what I mean? So when the football game was on, the football games were on and everything. That's what we had, all the chairs and all that stuff. Even back into, we'd have them even back into the pantry downstairs. Where we'd keep everything, and that's where the dudes hung out. So as soon as one of my favorite play uncles, Uncle Sonny, he was mayor of Frederick or whatever. So he would come in, he would come downstairs, he'd kick it. His wife would go upstairs, and then that was it. But that's just tradition.
Yeah, that was how it was. Yeah. It was a lot like that in our family as well. And it really sucks, especially as we talk about kind of Thanksgiving, and it's going to be a tough one this year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just with kind of a lot of the and what are now, I think it just changed, the CDC recommendations to not travel because of COVID, and how I was actually listening to something earlier where it was a CDC guy saying that, the Thanksgiving has the potential to be kind of the Super Bowl, the super spreader events.
Yeah, for some people.
So I want everybody to kind of stay safe and make sure you got to do what you got to do to make it out of this.
Eat across the room. Just pretend like it's a regular Thanksgiving, and your aunt or whoever it is, started some drama.
Yeah,
it always happens at everybody's holidays. Don't get too close to people right now.
Every holiday like that, always got something going on. But something that definitely went on this weekend, and we're skipping Coach Speak. We're gonna go straight into this.
Let's break that down.
There's just so much to talk about, and it's funny. I told you when we were talking last night about kind of what we were going to talk about today. It's like, getting into kind of the X's and O's of this game. It's kind of fruitless at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's,
you looking at. I tried to have some notes. And
I don't
stuff,
even know
it's only
what,
just in case I had to.
Yeah, like it's just not a. Like I don't know what you take away from that X's and O's wise, because I think the big thing coming out of this game as Nebraska, lost 41-23 to Illinois in embarrassing fashion after they were double-digit favorites coming into the game. I believe the line
15,
closed at 15,
right?
I feel like the feeling coming out of this game was a lot of people were just defeated because Nebraska is here in year 3 under Scott Frost, and these types of games are happening still, right?
Right.
And I think that you can maybe see this in year 1, even though to a team that is conservatively one of the worst 3 teams in the league, right, to have this happen to a team that you have more talent than going into the game overall, like to have this type of game is just really disheartening for the fan base. And I feel like it is the first real sign where I saw widespread kind of panic around the direction of the program.
But I will ask you this, okay? And we watched the game last year. Just because they won the game, did they beat Illinois? They didn't. And if you listen to Lovie Smith after the game, and this is about coach speak. We won't get into coach speak, but sometimes when these coaches get up there, and I've obviously had a ton of experience with a wide variety of coaches, and try to really, really listen to what they're saying versus hear, right? So I will say this: the Nebraska fan base and Nebraska people, they hear a lot because a lot of times when you hear things that differentiate the two, your filter is letting you only take in what you want to hear. Right. You know what I'm saying? When you really, really listen to what they're saying, they're telling you a lot more in if you try to break down their sentences and what they're really saying. Because when Lovie Smith said this is a game that our team was looking forward to, that lets you know that in that locker room last year, he said we let that one slip away, and all I could think of is Denny Green. We let him off the hook, right? Just to bring a little comedy, right? Get Lovie Smith up there.
Great moment.
But he said we let the game slip away, and we had this game essentially circled. And we said it last week. We got 2 teams coming in that had the winning feeling, right? What program was going to continue along and get better? Which is let's double down on what we've been doing and really actually go through the actions to do it, and to still even sacrifice a little bit more versus who was just kind of going to do it and think that they were going to show up.
They got fat and happy.
They got fat and happy, and that's where we're at. And the hardest thing when you're trying to build a winning program, really, get your culture infused from, player 1 to say like player 100, with all your players, is dealing with success and dealing with the expectations of you supposedly supposed to win the next week's game. Yeah. And we aren't there yet.
And you heard it after the game, but one of the things, and this is why I think another reason why people were so disheartened by the game is on that same note, you heard after the game, Scott Frost say right away that he thought that the team in the game was lackadaisical, didn't have focus, that they didn't prepare well during the week. You then heard, I think there were 3 players that spoke after the game, DiCaprio Budo, Austin Allen, Luke McCaffrey. All of them mentioned how the lack of focus and practice. Austin Allen talked about not executing the game plan well. And I'm just struggling to understand how Nebraska continues to get to this point, because we've seen this before. This has happened before in the last couple of years, and it kind of lends itself to why Nebraska they've not put together actual winning streaks here over the last few years. I don't think that in the last 3 years they've won 3 conference games in a row. I think it's only been twice that it's been 2 conference games in a row. And to me, that signals that there's a problem at the core of the program when it comes to they win one game and think that they're just going to show up and it's going to continue to happen. Yeah, we're back, and it's just going to continue to happen that way.
We get college game day, we hear.
Right, and it got caught in with a quote-unquote lesser opponent in Illinois. And something we were talking about off-pod before it started is if I could change one thing about this entire program, the administration, coaches especially, and the players, it would be to get rid of this mindset that there are easy games in this conference.
No,
right now, if we're being honest, Nebraska is the easy game. But when other opponents come to play Nebraska, But those opponents don't take Nebraska lightly. They come in to play Nebraska like they're playing their Super Bowl. They come in ready, focused, and prepared. When was the last time Nebraska played a game where like you were like, oh, Iowa kind of overlooked them or Wisconsin overlooked? No one does that. You know why? Because their teams are coached to stay focused and to stay in the moment and to make sure they take every one of these conference opponents seriously. And they don't do that at Nebraska.
That comes from experience on the coaching staff. And also the expectations are set. And, you know, when you just said that, it reminded me last year of when Indiana came back to beat Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And Tom Allen, then they had, you know, became bowl eligible. Then they end up winning 2 more games. So it lets you know they knew how to deal with expectations. But it's also it's not just internally like with the coaching staff. You have to look at the best and the worst thing about the University of Nebraska, right? Mm. And this is what the problem is where I always said, you know, all them funny mustaches, the man buns, the mullets, the funny haircuts. If I'm coach, that's gone. Okay, I'll get somebody. I'll get my boy Quabina to come in there and cut your hair. Okay, or whoever, Burke's Barbershop. I don't care who it is. Whoever you want. You want super cuts or whatever.
Straight edge, whoever.
Right. I want right. All that gone. Okay, because that makes you lose focus. And here's why they lose focus. Once these guys are here, they're treated as celebrities, or they're already treated as if they're the only show in town, right? So once they're here, they're already up there. So now these kids are coming here and thinking, I've already made it and haven't done anything. Right. They win one game, we've made it, we're back. Okay, now, you know, this next game, Illinois, they got beat 41-14 or whatever it was to Minnesota. Oh, they're not that good. They're not that good a team, right? But say, like, in comparison what Alabama does with Nick Saban, everybody that comes in there, he de-stars them.
Yeah, he does. He's talked about that quite a bit.
You got to right, and it's not personal. You got to break these guys down, get them into your program, then you build them back up, and then when they're ready. Right. Even when Michigan State, when they said that when those guys, we bring them in, and you know he's got to be on scout team as a freshman. You know, we got to get him in the weight room. Then by the time he's a redshirt sophomore, he's a grown man. He's ready to do business, right? Yep. These guys are coming here, and they just thinking like, oh, man, you know, I'm the man. I got all these stars. I'm just going to come and kind of go through practice, and I'm going to play. Or I'm
4-star. I'm gonna come in here and start year one.
Year one.
Big Ten don't know nothing about me. And I've seen that. And I've told you that before. That stuff alarms me when I see that. As someone who talks to a lot of these recruits, as my job is recruiting analyst, like when guys say that, it makes me nervous because it feels to me that there's something happening where people are being told the Big Ten is not that good, or it's not. You know,
or
it's
you're
not
that good.
You're that good, and I just don't think that that's the right way to approach things. And it made me also think of, you know, when you start to think about some of the things that Scott Frost has said about, you know, we just need that one win and then we'll get some air under our wings and the program will take off. And he has said that repeatedly, right? And he said that before they got that win against Penn State. We just needed that one, and now we can go. And I wonder if with the state of this program and how obviously the guys could not handle success, that if that messaging is the wrong message, if it should not instead be we need to get that one win, but we also need to continue to work the way that got us to that one win. And he said that after the game, right? But was he saying that internally, or has the team continued to hear all we need is that one win and then it's going to take off, right? I just wonder, and you don't know, maybe he's saying that privately, but it just feels like so much of the message is as soon as we get this one thing, it's going to all go, when that's not necessarily the case, because that's not how it's been around here.
No, and, you know, I'm thinking back now, you know, when some of our most, I wouldn't say intense, but the practices that where the details were hammered on us so much is when we were playing like teams like Pacific or somebody like that.
Right.
And then also after we had a big win, because there is no letdown. I want more. Right. The expectations is, okay, we took one step forward. Now we're going to take 2 and 3. And, maybe the messaging is messed up. I think a lot of these kids they're hearing that, you know, if a coach is sitting down and saying, hey, Greg, this is a great opportunity for you. If you come in and you prove yourself, you're going to play. A kid might be hearing, like, man, I'm coming in and I'm starting.
Right.
Okay. So there's maybe some disconnect there. I think maybe some kids are told, or, you know, a roundabout way, they're going to come in and they're going to play and they're going to start. And they just think, you know, kid these days, they think if they play, they're going to be starting. Also, I think ability to manage the roster in playing time and who plays is definitely becoming alarming, especially at the skill positions on offense, right, which is the receivers. Because when you got – look, there's nothing wrong with Cade Warner, that dude Levi and Oliver, right? Mm-hmm. But when you got Alante Brown, I can't even say Manning, but you guys say Fleming,
Betts,
Brown. I know there's one more. Those guys just look different. Yeah. And all of them can play. But in order to be effective, Illinois was sitting on everything. They did all that game plan that we had talked about, even going back to the Ohio State game when we said if defenses that play Nebraska just sit on, like press your corners, have a single high safety, load up the box, and say, I dare you to throw the ball. Like everyone has done that now. Right. Like it just keeps continuing to get worse. So and then couple that with the offensive line not playing well. And we talked about leadership we'll get back to where the quote was the energy in practice and the attention to detail in this practice was off, right? That's what they said afterwards, right? So that's a leadership thing. And it can't always be, at the expectation of the coaches, right? Yeah, the coaches are, granted, they're the one getting paid all the money, a ton of money, and they're the one that are always looked upon. But the best teams are policed internally, right? So let's just look at the captains here, okay? And let's just look at the offensive side of the ball because they've been playing horrible all year. Let's just be honest, right? Yeah. Okay. Adrian Martinez is your captain, no longer starting. So his voice is just a hollow. Yeah. Okay.
Even though he had that great video, I don't care about the video.
That's the problem. We're talking about video, right? Hold on.
Yeah.
So okay, his voice is hollow because listen here, homeboy, you ain't been doing your job not only this season but last season. Okay. So when you're talking to me, you ain't doing nothing more than I have been doing because what you're playing like isn't what you're telling me. So you're just hollow. Okay. And you just, dookie down your leg in the first two games this year. Okay. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, Cade Warner, right? He's probably done better than what, the two drop passes, the one from Adrian, that was a fastball when you should have been throwing a changeup. The other one, that happens like once a year. I do know Cade Warner can catch, and he's taking response. Okay, well, that's like kind of 50-50, right?
Okay.
Farniak. Okay? Oh, hold on, Farniak. First of all, he has been getting destroyed.
And it's bad because it was supposed to be the better of the positions for him, right?
He's been getting destroyed, and he's been playing too high, feet are too slow, and that's just. And this is listen here, he's a great kid, but I'm just telling you, when 91 blows you 5 yards in the backfield and tackles you, and there is no play that they're sitting up there drawing on. If we had a whiteboard here, say, hey. My guard get blown back into the quarterback's face, into the running back's face, and just mess up the mesh point.
Yeah, there's no play for that.
Right, that's like, oh, my gosh, I got all this space to come in and destroy the play.
Yeah.
Okay? So those are your three leaders on offense. Those are your three captains now.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, we talked about last year some of the guys that were captains on
when
defense,
they had the issues.
And people up there, man, you don't even know what you're doing. And you up here hooting and hollering, the one that you jumping around, right? Okay, then.
And that's
where it starts right there.
And that's something that has been a problem. We've talked about that, I feel like, for years because you've had captains that – and it sucks. I'm trying to pick on the kids because they – good kids, but there's been a disconnect between your vocal leaders and guys that are also vocal but showing it on the field on Saturdays. Because I'm with you. At a certain point as a player, you do look at guys in that situation and go, okay, how am I following you if you're not doing the things that you're saying that we should do? And that's just natural human psychology that I think that you could see happen anywhere.
Right. So that's where we're at. I mean, this has been a problem for the program, and I've talked about it since I've been back. Let's say just since 2010. Because here's the problem that Nebraska's been. Here's what they've kind of built up, right? They've always had their best. So they've always anointed and kind of handpicked their best players to be captains, but they aren't your best leaders, right? Then the media is kind of, and this is not, I'm not one of those media bashers people, but this is just sports media. The guys that always were the quote guys, they thought was in leadership, right?
Yeah, that happened here, and
that happened here, right?
Yeah.
So, but you're a guy that's always up in front of the camera after the game. But dude, you look like a turnstile when I see you playing offensive line or whatever you're doing. So then there you go. And then also, this is before Scott even got here. When you talk about quarterback play, which is the most important player on the team, you don't have anybody that's played the quarterback position from years past that has shown the guy behind him how to play, right? Perfect example, Taylor Martinez, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, great freshman year, but he just kind of, whenever he got in trouble, he just threw the ball up. Mm-hmm. What did Tommy Armstrong do? What they used to call it? What's the old boy? YOLO ball.
The YOLO ball.
YOLO ball, right? Mm-hmm. So who did he learn that from? It's not Tim Beck. Well, it is because he let it go on. Right? So for every one that you completed or got a pass interference, there's 6 of them that were either intercepted or you missed the check down that could have got it easily first down and many, many more, X, Y, and Z. Right? Now let's go to present day. Okay? Weekend at Bernie's, the coach. Okay.
Verduzco.
Yeah. Okay. Yo boy. Weekend at Bernie's. Okay.
Yeah.
The problem with our quarterbacks throwing the ball is fundamentals and footwork. I saw Kurt Warner talking about this. Yeah. And he was talking about Cam Newton. Okay. Same kind of quarterback, right? Is when you're throwing the ball and you want everything going towards your target, but you can't when your feet are either too close or your knees are. A lot of these guys that play quarterback for us throw it straight legged. You know what I'm saying? So you have no velocity, you have no accuracy. That's why you see the balls hitting the ground. Or when they catch the ball, they can't do anything with it. Right, it's like not about just completing the ball. It's complete. That's what made McKenzie Milton such a good player in this offense, because when he threw a ball, it was a catchable ball, number one, and then also they were able to do stuff with it after the play. So even if you're getting 5 yards after contact or 5 yards, if you might, okay, that might be 1 time, 2 times. The third one, now you bust off a 20-yard, after the catch play. That's explosive play. Right. That's why we're not explosive. Everybody thinks that UCF was this get back, drop back, and it was like Daryl LaMonica throwing the Cliff Branch, with the old school Raiders, right? Probably none of the people listening.
You lost some folks.
Or Tom Brady to Randy Moss when they were undefeated or something like that.
There you go. Dante Culpepper,
Randy Moss, or somebody like that, right? So it wasn't like that. It was explosive plays because of how they were getting the ball to the guys on time, allowing them to catch the ball in stride to turn up field and use their athletic ability and speed.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's funny you brought up McKenzie Milton in this. Is we talked about this beforehand, but I went back and watched. It was like a mixtape of McKenzie Milton. It was like the best quarterback that you forgot about because he's been hurt, unfortunately, with that gruesome injury. We'll see what his future holds for him. Hopefully he can either make a comeback or get in the coaching or whatever. But like
the portal.
See, stop it. But I watched this highlight film, and honestly, it didn't look like the same offense, but it also looked like what it's supposed to be when your quarterback's getting the ball out on time and accurately. And it's funny because it was a lot of what you saw on Saturday. And this is what I feel like we say this every week now, is that it's so frustrating to watch Nebraska, because one of the things I talked about after the game with our colleagues over at hillvarsity.com is that you could see people open. Yes. During that game, right? So that tells me, though, that the scheme is doing fine. The plays are working as designed. But it is very important to have, and this is, not hashtag great analysis, but it is very important to have that quarterback that can get the ball out there on time, throw it accurately, see it, first of all, and make those decisions, anticipate it as well, throw guys open, all of that. And that element has been missing, and it goes back to what we started talking about with coaching, because it shouldn't be the case. Teams that have quarterback coaches, first of all, should not have this type of aggression, because you have somebody whose sole job is to do that, right? Like his sole job is to coach up the quarterbacks. But you can't have your quarterbacks get to the point now to where I feel like both quarterbacks have regressed, and I feel like both are now kind of in the same spot where they both kind of look skittish in the pocket to make those passes that are clearly open. We're seeing them. There was the one, I don't know if you saw the one clip with Xavier Betts running the post route, and he was just wide open running down the field.
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily regressing, and this is only from personal experience from coaching and also being in a lot of scouting meetings. Everybody else is getting better.
Okay, and
that's what it is. Because here's what we're looking at. We're comparing how they play quarterback at Nebraska versus how the guy at Illinois just played. Right. So, and then we're also looking at Rutgers, right? Yeah. Guy that was here, how he's playing quarterback. We're looking at the Purdue quarterback. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah,
we're looking at the guy at UCF.
I like that you named 3 teams that are not traditional great powers.
No.
These are just teams that have been kind of competent with solid to okay quarterback play right now, which is where the next step for Nebraska to get to.
Right, and so that's where we're at. I think, and then conversely now, okay, I know Sam McEwen tweeted out this play yesterday, and he was saying, the stunt, and I don't know why it was called. No, that was actually, to be honest with you, conceptually, that's the perfect defensive call for the play. It was the play that when Epstein ran, and it was like 55-yard play. Run.
It was around left end. Right?
Around left end. Okay, the looper, which was Thomas, came too wide, so that means him and Garrett Nelson were both sitting there, got blocked by one guy. So if I'm grading the offensive guy, I'm like, dude, that's a plus. You just blocked two guys.
It
didn't even do anything. He just stood there, right? Yeah. And then Luke Reimer, who was anointed an NFL player at halftime by another former player, Gifford, which was one of the most ignorant things you could do, was wide open, missed the tackle. There he is for 50. Okay, then the corner lost leverage. That's and if you want to look at it from a plus and minus standpoint, when you have a perfect call, you had a minus up front, which is right for the defensive line, a serious minus at linebacker, and then we lost leverage from the corner because the corner got pinned by the receiver, so he lost outside leverage. At all 3 levels, at the point of attack, you had 3 minuses. That's how you give up an explosive run.
But is that okay? So the things though that you just described, you didn't describe to me not being a football guy, anything physical.
No.
That sounds like to me though, that is what we were talking about with quarterback fundamentals.
Right.
Why do the fundamentals continue to elude Nebraska football?
I mean, that's something that you'd have to look at practice and in the meeting room. You have to fall in love with the fundamentals, man. You have to. You have to every single week, you got to start at 0. You got to start with, like for linebackers, you got to start at footwork. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Patty Fisher, let me tell you something. If you young linebackers out here, if you guys want to learn how to play, watch Northwestern 42, 51, 28. 28, they got him enlisted at 215. Homeboy ain't nothing but 190 pounds.
I was about to say that dude is not 215.
Okay? And then, but Patty Fisher's a legit 6'4", 240.
Right?
He's big boy, and he is melting people. He is blowing linemen up. But if you look at his feet, though, and there is no wasted steps. That's how you see somebody that's not a superior athlete, like a LSU linebacker that went, or Devin White or something like that, or Levante David.
Yeah, one of those guys from Alabama.
Right,
yeah.
that can cover a lot of space and is never a mismatch against guys that are faster than him. If they got out and ran a 40, they'd beat him every time. Right. But he plays the position so efficiently. You understand? So what they do is – obviously Fitzgerald, I was a former All-American linebacker.
Yeah, and he shouted out his defensive coordinator after that game and said he needs to get more love.
Right,
which is because they've had great defenses for a long time.
Yeah. And they even played good defense last year when they were losing. It was the offense. Obviously Ramsey, their quarterback. Again, okay, now we're talking quarterback. Having Ramsey this year is a big difference.
Yep.
He was the quarterback at Indiana last year. The calming effect of being able just to not. He can win a game, which I think he did against Wisconsin, but he's not going to lose you the game, and he's going to play it the right way. But back to the details and the fundamentals, those are things that have to be started every single Monday. We used to practice on Mondays, so I think these guys practice on Tuesday this week, will probably because they usually come in on Sunday. We had Sundays off. Whatever it is, it starts on your first day of practice, and it's got to be hammered. And it's got to be hammered, and those are the things that you spend more times on. Is your footwork slow? Is it lazy? Is your point of entry in the play the right way? Or when you're like in this play that I'm talking about, the defensive lineman, when you're looping, is your eyes looking upfield or is it still looking sideways? Because it was looking sideways, that's why he went too wide. You got to come too tight on your TT stunt, right? Tackle down, you're around, right? Because he's coming down. These are the things that you should be working on in group work and already be ready and be excited for. And then also as a linebacker, once you know he's coming tight, that means you come out a little wider. Boom, you run right into 26, right? Instead, you sit there and you're watching like you're watching a movie, and then when it hits you, that's why Nebraska players always look surprised on defense because they're always a step slow. The anticipation isn't there, and it's either practicing with the same energy and velocity and veracity, whatever fancy name you want to get it with, or making sure that your film study every single play. You need to go over if this is my play sheet, right? You just don't watch it and say, oh, okay, Penn State runs an over front. This is all we're going to get. You could get this play in an even front, eagle front, over front, odd front, 3-3 look, 4-2, nickel or dime.
Right.
You need to be ready for every single play. And then you got to go back and watch it. Okay, well, they'll have the stunts that you'll have with each call. Okay, well, what if we run this stunt? What if we run a blast or whatever you want to call it? How am I going to take on this play? Because your responsibility changes in a matter of milliseconds. Right. That's how you watch tape. That's how you become a better player. That's how you're not caught out of position. That's how you play with fundamentals every single game, and that's going to give you a chance to win. That's going to give you a chance not to have two running backs have over 100 yards.
And I think that those things, what you just described, though, has been the difference for, and this is not just for the last 3 years.
No.
It's longer than that. But the difference, say, of the last 7 years between Nebraska and, say, Northwestern, who we were talking about now, especially Purdue, or what they have going on, Wisconsin, of course, Iowa, of course, too, is that attention to detail. And it doesn't feel like it's funny because I'll have to joke with people, and I've said this on here before, about how I can watch Iowa now from the last 10 years, and to me they look the same. Right. They look the same. And I know it's different players, and some of them are a little better than others, but they look the same. And I always wonder, how can they do that? And I think that's what you were just describing is how what you just did.
All the guys that Alabama has had drafted from their offensive line high haven't always panned out to the next level. But the reason why they look so good, and Nick Saban has said this, they do the same thing over and over and over. And they really aren't overly physical in practice. Now they're 9-on-7, teamwork is it, but they do a lot of conditioning and they do a lot of fundamentals and obviously working on things. Yeah. That's it. That's what it comes down to, man.
And so
same with Iowa.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm gonna tell you what. I heard one of the guys on, I don't know if it was Robert Smith or the other guy, they were saying that the Illinois offensive line have been grading out one of the top 2 in the nation.
I saw that. I did see that was early in the game they were talking about
that. They have the tempo setter in their center, right? Because he was getting nasty. Then they had 2 really good guards, and they got some big old boys at tackles, and one of them is a freshman.
Yeah.
And they were getting after us. And I think, really to be honest with you, when they watched that Penn State tape and how Penn State got after Nebraska with a little bit of nastiness.
When that quarterback run game, I think Penn State's mentality shifted when they switched the quarterback, and then that offensive line was getting after Nebraska. It was a lot of downhill running.
Right. They gave Illinois some,
something to watch.
And that's what's on tape.
Which I was going to say, which kind of goes perfectly into what I wanted to talk about next, but it doesn't if you're a Nebraska fan. They have Iowa coming to town, or they're going to Iowa, when they play at Iowa City this weekend, Black Friday. And we talk about the things that Illinois and Penn State did to Nebraska and successfully did to Nebraska. Iowa will obviously come in with the same game plan with 2 very good running backs as well that I really like, Sargent and Goodson, who are both playing very well, right? So then moving forward, as Nebraska has to turn around on a short week and try to get this thing figured out, if you are in that locker room, how do you go about kind of piecing that back together for Nebraska to get ready to then try to take on your rival who listen, there's no love lost. If Iowa can put 50 on Nebraska, they will.
Yeah, they see what they did in Minnesota.
Yeah, so don't expect no one's taking it easy on Nebraska if they don't have to, right? And so how do you get back into the groove or get to the mojo of what they had prior to this Illinois game?
I mean, really, you just answered it. What I'm going to stand up there and say, listen here, man. We all got to do better, okay? But here's what right here, we are at rock bottom, okay? Straight up, I'm not gonna lie to you no more, okay? This is where we're at. This is the lowest of the low, because it is. Let's just be honest, okay? Well, and so this is where we're at. Now I will tell you this: I'm gonna coach better. I'm gonna coach harder, okay? You guys better commit to me right now. We're all gonna do more, okay? We already watched the game tape. I'm assuming that they have. Yeah, that's over. But I'm gonna tell you this: as bad as we played Saturday, we know we can play better.
Yeah, we saw it. We have evidence of that.
This isn't me just telling you we've done it. We've played the arguably the best team in the nation straight up through 2.5 quarters.
Yep.
Okay, so that's how good you guys can be. Then we came back and we gave a game away against Northwestern.
The best team in our division.
In our division against Northwestern, the
Yep.
game that we should have won. And then we beat a team that we should have, and we played better, or we played a good first half. So it's there. Now we got to decide with us internally what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. Okay, we're going to Iowa. Okay, then I'm going to say, look, last year, the last 2 years, we played Iowa. They essentially beat us by a last-second field goal both years.
Yep.
Okay, that's where we're at. We're not facing Ohio State. We're facing Iowa. Okay, this is a battle between us. This isn't about them. This is about us. We go and do what we are capable of doing. Starting today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll brush up on Thursday. We're going to get in this I'm assuming they're going to get on a bus, and we're going to go up there with the right mentality, and then we're going to win this game. We're not going up there just to go through to play this game. We are going to win this football game by any means necessary. Okay? In order to get to that point now, it's going to be hard.
Right.
Okay? And it's going to suck. And there's no guarantee we're going to win. But we're going to do more than we have been doing, with more detail, more energy every single day leading us up to this game. And I promise you, I will be there right there with you. And that's how you go about it. You deal with what happened, because we can't change what happened. Yeah. But we also have to live in reality as well. And the reality is we've done a lot of good things that we haven't, been on the end of winning, but we're not going to, just because we played one bad game, one horrible game, that we're going to say, you know what, we're not the same team that played neck and neck with Ohio State. They had control of the game at the line of scrimmage, right? And we're not the same team that pretty much gave Northwestern the game, right?
Yep.
We're or the team that beat Penn State, right? That's who we are. We're not who we were Saturday.
But we're only going to get there through this work.
Through this work.
That's the thing.
The serious work.
Is the thing.
Right.
To me, I think that I can totally see, Scott and Chins and those guys going in and saying something similar to what you said. But I think, to me, the most important thing has to be, though, at the end of all of that, it can't just be, we'll fall back into being the team that we were. No, it needs to be, we need to get back there with work, but we need to take it a step further than
right.
what
I
we
want
were.
more.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, I won it 2 times. My message isn't going to be what I just said. It's going to be a lot of explicitives in there, okay?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is a baseball bat game, okay?
Oh, yeah, because this is a game now. This is a game on Friday against Iowa where it is won at the line of scrimmage, and it's a personal game.
Personal right here.
Yeah,
okay.
They blew the kiss at the end of the game. Like, the kicker stunting on you. Yeah, it's got to be.
Kicker better not come past that 50 after you kick that ball, because we doing a reverse run on you. We trying to knock your head off. Yeah. So that's just where we're at. But the whole thing that we were talking about, dealing with success, doubling down on how they played against Penn State or against Ohio State. Then again, obviously at the Wisconsin game that was canceled against Northwestern, and then going on to Penn State. I want more. You didn't give me more. I didn't give you more last week. So there's got to be humility from the coaching standpoint.
Yeah, it needs to be from both sides. I'm with you on that. It needs to be both sides. Everybody has to give more.
All these coaches have to say, we didn't do our jobs.
Right.
We got to. They've all got to roll up their sleeves and get down and get dirty, and that's where Nebraska's missing. I'm telling you, because I can guarantee you, if you watch their practice versus Illinois' practice last week, it's probably a lot different.
Right.
So we got to get dirty, and what I mean is, it's going to be hard. Now, look, you're not going to be out there and have a 3-hour practice like the Junction Boys with no walk,
right.
But it's got to be cranked up. That means if you don't coach in the moment and you are starting off with an offsides penalty or a legal procedure, or you're not getting the play in fast enough, okay? If you're not getting the play in fast enough, then we running as coaches.
Right.
Okay, you're doing something as a coaches. If you jump off sides, then you running. Not only now are you running, the whole offense is running. So now we're going to teach you guys how to be accountable to each other. Right. And I said this the other day. The funniest thing that my dad ever told me about doing chores, right? He's going to give me leeway, and let me do my thing, right? He said, you know what? I gave you a chance. I want to see how mature you were. He's like, that was democracy, okay? Now you done made me turn into yeah. You probably had
like something that Dad would say.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you. He said.
I know
it's a democracy. I gave you a democracy. Now I'm gonna show you what a dictatorship is.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's a dictatorship, right? He's like, well, you about to find out. So every detail, whether I was making my bed, had my shoes and stuff up off the floor, my basketball put up the right way, my basketball bag put up the right way, my book bag was put up the right way, was every single dish done on time. That's it. trash out. That's a dictatorship. But what he was doing is showing me the process is in the details.
I did something funny though about that. I'm laughing, smiling because my dad did something similar where he used to always tell me to take the next step.
Right.
That's what he used to always say. And I know he'll hear this and be happy that I remember this. He would say that all the time. Take the next step. Did you take the trash out? Yes. But did you put a bag back in there?
Right.
Right. What's the next step? What is the next thing that you need to do? And I never forgot that.
Right.
And so as a team, that's another thing that they need to be able to do is how do you take that next step? And being able to, we talked about it with finishing, right? When they were having the problems finishing drives, finishing plays, like it's those little things that have added up in the negative direction for Nebraska that they need to get a hold back on. And you're completely right that it's internal right now. You know what Iowa's going to be. You know that they are a team that's going to be out there fundamentally sound, well coached, with a few guys here or there that can hurt you. But you need to come out and play your game. It's about Nebraska at this point.
And you can play your game and play good and still lose.
Right, that happens
like
too,
said,
but it needs to look. We talked about this a lot. Like, how does okay, if Nebraska is, even if they're not winning, what would people be happy with? I think we know, right? We know
that's all,
that if they go out there and they play well and they play hard and they play physical and they limit mistakes and they still lose, that happens. That you're not going to go out and win every game.
No.
That's not where this program is.
We're not even
but
there.
It's not close. But at the same time, you can't go out there and have the same mistakes that people were willing to push to the side in year one in year three. It just can't be like that if you're wanting people to believe that the program is still making progress and is going in the right direction. It's just tough to do that. Now, we got to get into my favorite segment every week.
Put them on blast.
We got to put some people on blast because I've been looking forward to this one. I told you yesterday I was fired
But he's
up.
like always a candidate, though.
Okay, listen.
Because he's been a candidate ever since, like, the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, ever since
George
he became
Floyd.
Dabo Luther King. Like, ever since Dabo Sweeney went – actually, it was before that. It was when Dabo Sweeney had that quote about how if college players started getting paid, he'd have to quit because it'd be the end of amateurism and all of this. Dabo Sweeney could be on this list for me every week. I try not to, but I can't avoid it this time. Dabo Sweeney is who I'm putting on blast. I'm sure you guys saw over the weekend Clemson's game with Florida State got canceled kind of at the last minute, right? It was a tough situation where Clemson had already traveled there before they were informed that game wasn't going to be played, and it was not out of nowhere. It was because Florida State officials learned that a Clemson backup offensive lineman had tested positive for COVID-19 and had traveled with the team. Not only had traveled with the team, had been practicing through the week. If you remember, Florida State had early in the stages of kind of their camp, had somewhat of an outbreak with their team, including the coach. Remember, Mike Norvell then had it, right? And he had to sit out. And so they had been very cautious since then. I think that I saw that Florida State, or they said that they had not had a positive test since the head coach, Mike Norvell, got his positive test and had to isolate, right? So they have been very strict on it. But then Dabo Sweeney, I guess that's not good enough for him. He was really upset. And he said, amongst other things, quote, "This game was not canceled because of COVID. COVID was just an excuse to cancel the game." He says that the FSU administration actually should have forfeited the game. And if Florida State wants to play Clemson, they can come to Death Valley or they can pay for Clemson travel.
Is he a little pouty Pat? He's a little petty Pat.
Man, okay, yeah, we had our petty Pat moment with you a couple weeks ago. But Dabo Sweeney, and it's funny, to me, this is what I immediately thought of, is Dabo Sweeney, this concept is foreign to him because it seems like Mike Norvell actually cares about his players and his players' safety, and that concept is foreign to Dabo Sweeney, who cares about Dabo Sweeney, these dollars, and getting wins on his stat sheet.
Right, and trying to get back after they lost to Notre Dame. That's really what it came down to.
And then it's even, to me, it's even crazier that Dabo Sweeney would take this stance when they had their own outbreak, including his future number one pick, a quarterback,
But he wants to get him back there. He's almost on Mike Gundy level. Remember when Mike Gundy said to somebody, he's like, "Oh, these athletes are strong.
They can take it.
My boys.
Why would you ever in a million years say that? But like this whole, like Dabo Sweeney, like even if this is one of those situations, and this happens in life to everybody, I don't care if you don't want to admit it. There are things that you think that you should not say, that you should never ever say or tweet.
Post.
Like he should not have said that. Right. Like that's not. I don't even like even if you. Like even if you think that they were scared to play you, and that's what you don't say that.
There's another way you could have massaged that. Say, hey, look, I'm extremely disappointed in Florida State's decision, we felt like we were ready to play. We
could have actually tried to move the game something. Like he could have said something like that.
We had offered some compromise or different. We could have played on a Monday or two. You could have did something.
Because there have been leagues that have done that.
Yeah, played on Sunday morning. We could have done something like that. We were willing to, on our end, rectify any type of situations to make them feel more comfortable about playing. Then you put the onus on Florida State. We've done this. We see
which is the sneak way to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But he couldn't. He couldn't even bring himself to do that. He actually even said, we should have played. We've mitigated everything all year long. The game was not canceled because of COVID. COVID was an excuse to cancel the game. He doubled down on it.
He said they were scared.
He lied and said we mitigated all year. You didn't. That's not even.
You just had the number one pick had COVID, homeboy.
Like that's not true. So I had to put him on blast. Like you said, I could put him on blast every week.
Every week.
He always saying something crazy, and it's a guy that like people just look at Dabo and they're like he like all shucks, like he's this plucky underdog. No. Dabo has been saying like what people love to say problematic things. Like Dabo Swinney has been saying problematic things for years, and it kind of gets mirrored because he's got a great football program.
He's built that
but
program
he is
up,
not,
and he's in a super small market off the beaten path. So once you hear about things that he said, it's usually 12 hours after he's done.
And that's probably something to it.
And then also when you're winning down there, you get away with it. But let me tell you something. It always happens. Once he starts losing or once something big happens, these type of quotes, these type of situations will going to get mad. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
He's like the guy, that runs like one of those super churches and stuff. Like, oh, damn, homeboy been, dealing with the congregation. You know what I'm saying? So,
and eventually something always catches up to
him because I'm sure he cares about his players, but he cares about winning right now. Yeah. And he's massaging it through the oh shucks type of thing, but he has been his mouth. He has that. He needs a PR person.
But the problem is that he doesn't he won't see it that way because he's been winning and he doesn't feel that pressure. Because I would almost guess that the local Clemson media does it. Yeah, they're just with him on that because it's also easier to do that when you're in the bubble with that particular team and you're winning
and you're
willing to
team.
Go. Yeah, you're willing to go. Winning. But there are people nationally that are like every time he says something, they're like, "What are we doing here?"
Right? They're just waiting. Yeah, they're just waiting because the same.
And it happens to almost everybody. Like if you think about it really happens all over the place.
Sooner or later, it's going to come back to you. Now, talking about coming back to you, I'm going to put another. I'm going to tell you something about wide receivers. Now, whether it's Desmond Howard, your boy, or okay, but the other one, who I really like though, because he looks Joey Galloway looks like one of my best friends. Man, he looks like Reggie Hammond off 48 Hours. He looks like one of my best friends, Jamal Lewis. But I'm going to put Joey Galloway on blast. Okay? And I get what he was saying. Mm-hmm. But Joey Galloway he was on one of the shows and he was talking to Reese Davis and they were talking about Northwestern against Wisconsin. And he told Reese Davis, they got a bunch of Reese Davises out there running around. So and then Reese Davis said, what, pretty athletic? He's like, yeah, athletic, tongue in cheek. Right?
Okay.
So I'm putting him on blast because you're so disrespectful because I guarantee what he saw. All right? Mm-hmm. He saw a bunch of Northwestern, a bunch of white guys out there. Yeah. I mean, because they're a bunch of, they got a few.
Because we talk about they're led by Patty Fisher.
Right. They got a few brothers in there sprinkled, but it's very few and far between.
Yeah.
So he's thinking they don't look overly fast on tape because they wear the black shoes. And
they got the grass cut long.
Cut long, and you don't see any of those guys with the wristbands cut around their arms. They all look the same. I mean, listen, when you think about them, you don't see the long. I mean, you might see a long hair guy, but it's not. It's very few. I mean, I know their running back look like Kenny G, right? He looks like, but his dad's Damian Anderson, so and his mom, I'm assuming she's white or whatever, so he's got the good hair. But
Did you just call him Becky with the good hair?
Yeah, he got good hair though.
I'm just checking.
Because I messed with my dad about him. I said, man, what's up? I got the coarse hair, you got the good hair. So, but anyways, they all look the same, right? The black shoes, no, socks kind of all the way down. And they don't wear sleeves. They all kind of look the same. Joey Galloway's like, oh yeah, you guys just look like a bunch of slow 1988 Celtics out there, in
neck roll
with the neck roll. And call them the fighting Reese Davis. So I'm going to put you on blast for not doing your job correctly. You can say you watched Northwestern, but you really didn't watch them. Because if you watch Northwestern and you knew the record of Wisconsin at Northwestern, which is now 1-6 in the last 7 years.
Yeah, I saw that. Pat Fitzgerald had Chris number.
Right.
Him.
So 1-6. And also, you didn't watch last year where Northwestern was the only team really actually to play really, really well against.
It
slowed down Jonathan Taylor, right? Without a quarterback. That lets me know you really didn't do your job. You just expected Wisconsin just to come with this quarterback that they had, Mertz, who got brought down to reality again.
He did.
Right? Against a defensive team, one of the best defensive teams, not only in the Big Ten, in the nation, and has been historically, right? Not as good as this year. This is a really, really good defense.
Really, really good.
So I'm putting them on blast because you didn't do your job. You just assumed, and then you went out there and called them the fighting read, and then you gave them fuel.
Did Pat Fitzgerald mention that? He
didn't mention it just once, not twice. He did. First of all, at the interview right after the game, he mentioned it not once but twice. Then he went to the one after he celebrated with his team and mentioned it 2 more times to you.
Man,
yeah. And then Joey Galloway said, tried to say, okay, well, I can see you, and they played well, and this, and this. Gave him a little bit of a, a little bit of kind of roundabout good compliment. No, you needed to step on your own tie, as they call it, when you're on TV, and say, you know what, I messed up. I didn't, I went out there and thought they were going to get the brakes beat off them. That's what he thought because of Wisconsin and what they were ranked.
Right.
And you went out there and didn't do your job. Joey Galloway, do your job.
Yep.
And you were definitely on blast.
Sorry,
and he from Ohio State, too.
I was going to say, you would think I could see that if it was a guy from like an ACC school or something like that, but being from Ohio State and being a Big Ten guy, I'm surprised that because when I saw that, I was surprised that
when I heard it, I was like, oh, no, you didn't. I said, I remember hearing him saying, I said, if Northwestern wins,
he's going to hear about it.
He's going to hear about it.
Definitely. And he definitely
And they dominated that game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Because they had a couple calls at home on that touchdown pass on the first one when it was 7-7. It should have been 14-7 that probably should have went Northwestern's way.
Right. Man. But like we'll see. We're gonna see. I think that's the lesson for today is we're gonna see.
Less talk, forward. More doing. And they always say, be seen and not heard.
There you go.
Right?
Subscribe to this podcast everywhere you can listen to them. Rate us and review us. Leave us a 5-star review. If you leave us 4, I am inclined to think you are a hater. Make sure that you're checking out the other podcasts on the Hail Varsity Network, the Mind Your Own podcast, Varsity Club, more to it, the Hail Varsity Radio Show as well. We do have an email, which we had a very nice email come in. I appreciate you. At straightupbreakdown@hailvarsity.com. You can also find us on Twitter at GregSmithHV and at Foreman5644. We will catch you guys next time.